Hello and welcome to this episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show and podcast. I am your host, Christine Innes. Now, I am super excited because I have the very beautiful Leah joining me today. So welcome.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Now, we've known each other for a little while, so we might get a little bit personal in this episode. So just a forewarning for everybody as well. But Leah is also my personal assistant, so she is absolutely amazing. But she was also featured in our first birthday issue of the Corporate Escapists magazine. So excited. But before we dive in any deeper, how about I throw over to you? You can introduce yourself to everybody and tell everybody all the amazing gifts that you do for everybody.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Christine. So I'm Leah and I'm the founder and director of Collectively Assist, who is a virtual assistant business. And I work with a lot of small business owners, generally women-led businesses who have a very creative mind in coaching. It can also be in other services or other product-based businesses as well. And I basically come in and give them the opportunity to gain back time. Whether that's through helping them with very mundane tasks that they do, or like I do with yourself, Christine, doing video and podcast editing and kind of helping with some of the socials. But then I also get to come into some businesses because I can see they have the vision to want to grow their business, just like yourself. And it's really figuring out, okay, well, what systems and processes do they need in place in order to get from what I would consider a one-man band to, having 2, 3, 4, or 5 employees underneath them. So a lot of business owners know what they do and know how they run their business, but sometimes when they have to transfer that knowledge to someone else, when they have a new person come on board, it can be quite tedious. Sometimes it's not done effectively, and then the thought of growing a team even further than more than 1 or 2 people just seems completely out of control. So that's where I come in and really help businesses kind of take them from one level to the next and get them to have a really thriving business.
Yeah. And I think it's so needed. Honestly, as I first started out in the business and then to think, okay, well, I need to bring somebody in, but I don't have the capacity, obviously, for full time. So, but there's all these little things that can free yourself up, like you said, for it. But do you think that it's also, well, I know for myself that it's also letting go of that control of, doing it for the business. But do you also see it as that stepping stone for them to actually help realize their dream, because somebody is now in the business to free up for them to do other, key tasks that they need to do as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think it goes through a whole growth process with a lot of business owners when they take on a virtual assistant. And I think the key word there is assistant. The only difference of what we do is based in the first word, which is virtual. So we can be doing what I do anywhere around the world. But a virtual assistant is really there to assist that business owner in moving their business forward. So it really is kind of a bit of a growth journey that you go along with the business owner in, because you do have to give them the opportunity to feel okay with letting go, with feeling okay that knowing things are going to change and think, change is okay. But I think it's important for them, like for the virtual assistant that you have, to really be in the business, really understand what the business needs are, what the business goals are. So then everything that we're working with our clients on allows us the opportunity to sometimes even question what we're doing. So if we know what the business goals are and where the business needs to be in the next 5 to 10 years, if what we're working on we can see doesn't really align with what those goals are, then we can have that conversation with the business owner and go, hey, look, we're doing this, but you're saying in the next 5 to 10 years you want to be doing this. I just want to see how you feel that aligns, because we don't think that really works. So let's sit down, have a conversation, and let's maybe do a bit of a strategy redo and see what we need to do next.
Yeah, and I think it's really important too, because I think as the business grows, there's so many of your goals actually does change as well, because you grow as a person, but also too, maybe your clientele will actually start to become different as well. So you need to meet those needs and services for them as well. Are you finding that with the people that you work with?
Yeah, definitely. When I first started in 2020, so it was a COVID business baby, I'm definitely working with different clientele now than I was in 2020. I was very much in a scarce mentality of kind of taking in everything that I could. And now I've really sat down and refined and gone, okay, well, what are the businesses or the type of people that I enjoy working with? And I love working with creative people. I love working with people who have a huge vision, who can see their business in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But then they have this little part of them that goes, I'm just not 100% sure how to get there.
Yeah.
You know, I know what I want it to look like, and I know what I want the business to look like, but I just need help on figuring out those little tiny steps along the way. So it's really made me realize that I don't want to work with everyone. And I've definitely learned that if you, as the saying goes, if you try to sell to everyone, you sell to no one. And I very much think that's the same. I was so scared that I wasn't going to find enough business, so I was happy to work with anyone. And now I've really looked at the clientele that I have worked with and who I want to work with, and I've really made sure that that aligns with the type of people and the type of businesses that I think, you know, they bring me joy. And seeing the businesses grow in the direction that they are, if I feel happy and joyous about that, then I'm going to be more inclined to do the work. And it is so gratifying to know that you have, you know, like I said, I come in and become that transition piece between a one person band, you know, to having 2 or 3 employees. And I actually had a client recently who was so nervous to have a conversation with me about saying that they had to let me go. And I was like, oh my God, like, is everything okay? You know, what's been happening? What's happening with the business? And she goes, I actually need to hire someone part-time, which means I can't have you both. And I was like, that's perfect. That is literally my purpose. You know, if I'm with a business for more than 12 months, then something's seriously wrong. Like, the growth isn't happening. The business isn't moving in the right direction. So, you know, in order for me to really help my clients, if I can get them to go from themselves to having an employee in 3 to 6 months, then my job is done.
Yeah.
You know, and if I can do that with people that I love working with and businesses that actually I enjoy learning more about, then, you know, that's a win-win situation.
Yeah, I think there's some really key things that you just said there. First of all, with the scarcity mindset, I think that is something that we all need to learn and embrace, and it is very, very scary. And you know, when you really do know who you want to work with, I think that is so key. And I think sometimes that I know people talk about, you know, that this is the type of client we want to work with. I'm losing my voice today.
Poor thing.
Oh my goodness. Like, we know the people that we actually want to work with, and we try to just pigeonhole, but then we then stop our own growth.
Yeah.
But then what you're talking about is actually learning from your own process and actually saying, okay, well, instead of taking on everybody, I want to focus on these because A, brings me joy. This is the reason why we start a business.
Exactly.
This is why we want to work for ourselves.
Yeah.
But also too, is that when you are working from that abundance mindset and you're there, you attract your ideal clients, because when you're in scarcity, you're attracting the people who you don't want to work with. But when you go to abundance, you're actually attracting the people that you do want to work with. And the whole surrender process is very hard to do. And I still struggle myself. I've been practicing that for years, but it is also letting go and actually really putting out there of what you want, so you can actually attract that back into your business, but also into your life as well. So I know that you are, you know, a little bit into the spirituality, and, you know, just about the way that you talk, and I know that the things that you do, you talk about grounding and all of that. But I want to talk a little bit about, you know, your story that's in the magazine. We're talking about self-love, and I so resonate with that story, because I think that it's really hard for us to be in business when we don't fully love ourselves. And I think the more that we can embrace who we are, I think that allows the creativity in the business. It allows more love and joy, obviously, into our lives. But it also sparks something more. And for me, I feel, and I want to get your opinion on this, is that it also sparks boundaries and also a little bit of resilience as well within ourselves, because we know what we want, and it's sort of like we're stopping what we don't want, and that's our boundaries, and having that resilience to say no, and not taking less than what we deserve. How do you feel about all of that?
I definitely think it's been a journey, and a journey I'm definitely still on. And I think it really came down to looking at what my values were and what I valued the most. And there was so much pressure that I put on myself that I had to value family first, and I had to value my health, and I had to value this. And then I actually had a bit of an awakening when I went through a business immersion weekend. And I realized, and I had for so many years, I've always valued my career and I've valued hard work. Um, and the flow on effect from that means that when I put my 100% commitment, when I am in my job, when I'm doing my tasks, when I'm building my career, that then allows me to, when I'm not working, value my family and value my health. And I think that's where I've really managed to create those boundaries and build that resilience and go, you know what? It's okay to say no to this. It's okay to put this on the back burner. It's okay to do this because I know what I value. And by putting those values first, it really allows me to be really strict on my boundaries and really kind of push home that's, being okay that putting business and career first means that I can still have everything else, because it is about that work-life balance. And as business owners, sometimes I don't think we really understand what that is. But I know that by putting that constant and committed value in my business and in my career and in what I do every single day, it means that when that boundary comes, when I switch off and I now become a mum, or I now become a woman, or I now become just someone who wants to enjoy life, I can then be 100% committed and present in that moment, because I've done what I needed and I've now created that life so that when I switch off, that is 100% who I can be as well.
Yeah. And it is really difficult when you, first of all, are in startup mode, because the passion just drives everything, that this is, what you do. And so all of those other things. So you talk my language when you talk about values, because I think values is what changed my life. It is the key fundamental for anybody. If you want to know more about values, you need to get over to the website, because there's an amazing quiz that we've developed for it. But having those key values, like, are you able then to make the life and business decisions because they match those values?
Correct. And I definitely think it comes down to really being able to be okay with where your values fall. Like, don't feel like you have to have family on the top of your list, or money has to be at the top of your list, or health has to be at the top of your list. You create the values that align with you. You don't have to set a standard. You don't have to be making sure that you make somebody else happy with your values that you have. Like, your values are yours. So be okay with them. Be okay with where they fall, and be okay with making sure that if you're going to commit to them, then you actually commit, and then you align your life around what those values mean to you, as opposed to trying to fit somebody else's set of standard values. I think that's really important for people to remember. There's no right or wrong way on what your core values are, because at the end of the day, you are unique. Nobody else is like you. Nobody thinks like you. And I think it's important to understand that means your values aren't going to be like anybody else either.
Yeah, exactly. And your values change. Like, as you grow as a person, your values are going to change. And I want everyone to know that that is perfectly normal. It's not like you're stuck and going, here's your fingerprint and that's it. You're stuck with it. That's
exactly right. Yeah.
It's going to change, and you may go back to something before and change it across. But yeah, as I feel is that when I coach people, it's one of those things that I really want to ingrain on people, is to say, these are your values and you own it. And I want you to be able to shout them from the rooftop because they're yours, but that's okay if they change, because personal development is a lifelong journey. It never ends. So
totally agree.
it's not something that you just go and do a course on.
Tick, done. Okay, I can move on with the rest of my life now.
I so wish sometimes, but no, it's something that we constantly do and need to work on. How do you find that, as you grow yourself, how your business then sort of, I guess, whether or not it has to catch up with your own development as well?
I think it's definitely a cat and mouse game. Either the business is moving forward and I need to catch up, or I'm moving forward and the business needs to catch up. So it's definitely one or the other at any given point. But it makes me realize when I like either hit certain business goals or hit certain personal goals, that I'm like, okay, I don't want to go, I'm done now. I've always wanted to challenge myself. I've always wanted to kind of be working towards something. So whether that's making new goals or figuring out different services in my business, or even challenging myself differently in my personal life, I think it comes down to wanting to push the boundaries a little bit. I mean, there's definitely people that I've met in my journey so far that have reached a certain point and they're happy with that. And I don't want to ever don't want you to think that if you're not striving for something, that means you're not living or achieving life. Some people reach their optimum level in their life and they're happy with that. I would love to be able to get to that one day, but I know in myself, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
So if I know that I'm not there yet, then I know that I still need to strive for something more. So like you said, whether it's the business catching up to me or me catching up to the business, it's always just kind of going, okay, well, this is where I am now.
Yeah.
Am I okay with that?
Yeah.
No, I'm not okay with that. Awesome. Well, how am I going to stretch myself? What are my goals going to be? How am I going to push myself forward?
Yeah. And I think like what you're saying is so relevant to everybody. And I hope that everyone takes that away, because the fact is that as we go through life, we're going to have different experiences. We're going to learn different lessons. And from that, it actually is going to change our goals. So therefore, those different priorities are going to change as well. But also too, is that I think you're the type of person as well that you love the challenges, but in addition to that, you love learning and you love the growth. Yeah. So I think that there's certain people out there that just love the learning and they love what they can get and the reward from it as well. I always see the challenges or the difficulties that, come up in life. Now I'm like going, okay, I'll have my little pity party about why me, poor me, all that sort of stuff. But then it's also about, well, what can I learn from this? What can I learn to be able to take this to the next level and help not only me, but also my clients as well? And I think that as business owners, when we encounter different things, these challenges need to be learning lessons, because we never know who we're going to impact.
Correct.
Moving forward as well, by what we're learning throughout that whole process as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it comes down to something that I learned very recently, was writing out what if sentences. So kind of, what if this happened? What if this happened? And at first I found myself being quite negative about it. What if I lost my job? What if I had nowhere to live? What if I couldn't put food on the table? What if I couldn't afford to look after my son? And then I found myself going into this like horrible pity party of what if these negative situations. And then I got to I kind of snapped myself out of it, and I got to the end of the page and realized I'd written this like long page of negative what if stories. And then I went, well, what if I gained an extra client? What if I raised my prices an extra $10? What if I went for an extra 15-minute walk every day? What if I did this? And then I found myself going, well, there's so many more possibilities. That one page of negative what ifs turned into like 3 or 4 pages of positive what ifs, because I just kept going, well, what if this, and what if that, and what if this? And then it made me realize that I was the only person that was kind of stopping myself from really going down that negative path. And I am guilty of it. I've suffered from anxiety and depression for most of my adult life, and even as a young child. So it's retraining and rewriting those stories in your head, which does take a lot of time. It's not, again, it's not like personal development. You don't just do a course on how to cure anxiety and tick you're cured for the rest of your life. But it makes me realize that when I'm in those negative mind frames and I'm putting those negative what if stories in my head, I can go, okay, yep, that's a crappy situation. But what if this happened?
Yes.
What if I did this instead? What if instead of looking at it this way, I looked at it this way? And then I find myself, it's so much easier to kind of come out of that and really look at the positives and things as opposed to the negatives. So I think it's really important to understand that not every journey is going to be the same, and you just kind of need to take it as it comes.
Yeah. And I think that is, I love what you've just said, because it's so easy for us to always think of the negative.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that we're programmed like that. I'm not, a professional or anything like that, but I feel like it's actually easier for us to go down that route. But then when we flip it with it, it changes so much more within ourselves. And I find that when I'm in that positive state, you sit taller, you speak, really clearly, because you're really focused on what your goals and all that are. But also too, I find that, people are just so much more attracted to your energy because of the fact that you're in that positive state.
Correct.
And I always say that, when you go into a room full of people, the first person you're drawn to is the one that's, full of life and happy and all of that. And that's what I like for myself, I want to be. And I think that if we can always just focus on the person that we're wanting to be, and we're not always going to be there, but we can have that vision of that person and try and step into that as much as we possibly can. It changes so much more, not only just within our lives, but we underestimate the ripple effect it has on the people around us. Like, you would notice it with your son. I notice it with my family. They're like, oh, well, like, I want to be around Christine more. But when you're doom and gloom, sometimes it is hard. And look, we all have those moments. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because we all do it, and I do it myself. I have pity parties all the time, so it's okay.
I think it's understand that perfection doesn't exist, and it's the whole point of having a personal development journey is to be constantly improving. It's not about being the best, like, perfect version of yourself. It's all about just being better. How can I be better today than I was yesterday? How can I be better next week than I was last week? And really focusing in on, okay, well, there was a shitty situation. I didn't like it. I had my pity party, but now I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to have a shower. I'm going to have a dance party. Do whatever you need to kind of flip that mentality and move yourself forward. And something my son said to me was, a happy, healthy mummy is the best mummy that I could ever ask for. And then it kind of made me sit back and go, okay, well, if that's all that he needs, am I offering that? Am I the happiest person? Am I the healthiest person for myself? Am I just the two criteria for my son? That's it. That's all he wants. Happy and healthy. I think I can work with that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it just makes you realize that, it's just about being a better version, not the best version, not the most optimal version, just a better version of the person you are, because you're going to make better choices. You're going to be attracting better people into your circle. You're going to be more creative. You're going to be more productive. And that's just the way, that's just the way it works.
Absolutely. Use yesterday as your benchmark. That's what I always say to people.
Use
it as your benchmark, because what else, use yourself. Don't compare yourself to anybody else, because we're all unique individuals, but use your version of yesterday as your benchmark, and always go for better than that. And there are days where like, I will sit there and go, oh my goodness, and overthink everything and all of that, and then you just sort of, like, the next day I'm like going, oh my god, I wasted the day on that. Like, why was I worrying on that when I could have been doing all these other amazing things? But that's okay.
No, and I totally agree. And we've had those conversations ourselves when we've been working together, where you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, or I don't know how I'm going to make this work. And it's like, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
That's right.
Like, you're freaking out, or you're stressing about something that hasn't even happened. And like I said, I've done that many, many times before. But sometimes when you say it out loud, or you say it to someone else, and they go, well, it hasn't happened, so what are you talking about? And you're like, oh yeah. Maybe I can stop being so negative about it.
It is. And I think one of the things that like, we have a really great working relationship, and I think that's, as being if you're sitting there and you're in business for yourself, like, this is one of the benefits of actually having an assistant, because you can bounce those ideas off. They are part of the business. I have learnt over the last couple of years that it's actually better to talk about it with people that are like-minded to yourself. And nothing against my family or anything like that, but sometimes they don't get the business side of things.
And I get that.
It's really difficult, with it. They're very supportive. They come along to all the events and, all that sort of stuff. They want to grab the magazine. Like, they're so supportive. But if I'm talking business growth and business strategy, you need to choose who your tribe is for that. And I think that's one of the key things that I found is super valuable of having you part of the team is that I can go, okay, Leah, and I'll just send. So this is how it works, people. I will send Leah a voice message and I'll just go blur, and she'll go, that's okay, Christine, we can do that.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll do it. It's not a problem.
It's easy.
It's already done.
So I really do think that if, you know, for anybody who's out there sitting there and they want to grow their business, this is one of the key things of having an assistant. And, you know, now we can jump onto Zoom. Like it's so super easy and have a conversation. You feel part of the team and go through it. So I just want to say thank you so much also for everything that you do, not only for me in the business, but just also being
You're
so
amazing.
Vulnerable and sharing your amazing story in our current issue of the magazine. And honestly, people, if you are wanting to grow your business, reach out to Leah, talk to her about it. I'm going to drop all the links of where you can reach her below. If you have any questions at all about what a virtual assistant does, make sure you leave a comment below, and Leah and I will definitely respond back and talk to you. But I just want to say massive thank you again, beautiful, for being here today.
No, thank you so much. It's been amazing to kind of share my journey and hopefully kind of open up a little bit more about what the virtual assistant world is like, and how we are really an extension of a business owner, not just someone who comes along to do those mundane tasks. So any questions, by all means, guys, hit them down below.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who is watching this current episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show and podcast. I am your host, Christine Innes. Remember to live life to the fullest every single day and follow your dreams. Love and light to you all.